Welcome to the Bayou City Soccer Podcast. Whether inside or outside the loop, we are talking everything soccer in Houston. Y'all ready? Let's get it. Houston, welcome to another episode of the Bayou City Soccer Podcast. My name is Rudy Segura. I hope you are having a fantastic week. You should, especially if you're a Houston Dynamo fan. But I am not alone. No Cristian Putalias tonight. He said he might join later. I told him to take the night off. Why rush? Since I am in good company, I am joined by the one and only DynaStats. How are you, DynaStats? You doing all right? If I could add you, there we go. Hey, man.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Rudy. Yeah, I'm doing great. It's great to be here. It's great to talk about a really good Houston Dynamo team.
A very good Houston Dynamo team. Yeah, we named this Dynamo on a roll. And I see Jeff saying Dynamo on which roll? A Hawaiian roll, a Kaiser, Chavada, man. I don't know, but it is very, to quote the one and only Manny Olivares, he says it's very tasty. So we'll leave it at that. That's something that he likes to say. But man, yeah, it's been a really good week, dude. First of all, thanks for joining us. I know that you are busy, like we all tend to be, but man, we'd love to have you here on our airwaves, man.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to be here too. I love talking to y'all.
Yeah, I mean, just to kick off, and that's we were talking right before we started. DynaStats telling you about the slides, and I realized I put a lot of stuff in here. The only thing that I sort of missed was the kit, the archive kit. I have to get your reaction. I mean, obviously we had seen it be leaked by the Adidas and James Harden, and of course some other people leaked it as well. We're glad that we were able to get our hands on a replicant and authentic one as well, thanks to our friends, and Maddie got to rep it, and we let her have it. She helps us a lot creating content, so shout out to Maddie if she's listening. But yeah, just your initial thoughts, man, on that great white kit.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we're kind of used to seeing a almost dark away kit and orange home kit. And I know that white used to be a big color. I know they've been kind of fading that out, kind of going for the black and orange look. But it's nice seeing that. And I'm too young to remember those old days. But I still love it. I have a feeling of nostalgia that I never, for something I never experienced. Even the game as well. I don't know if you were at the game, but the presentation at the game I thought was amazing. I felt like, all the old graphics, the old goal song, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and obviously, I don't know about you. You as you mentioned, you're a little younger than me. But whenever they did the rebrand, I'm sure you kind of remember how that transition was possibly, and it to me, it took a little bit to get used to the new logo. And now, I'm all in, right? And especially the one like this, the one that doesn't have any Houston Dynamo, just has the H and the D. And seeing the old logo back, I was like, why did we move? Like, why did we move away from it? You mentioned that nostalgia kind of kicked in. And I tell you guys this, you being part of the younger guys in our squad, among many others. But I never want to be that old guy that says, like, well, back in my day, this was great and this and that. And so one thing, and that will definitely, be more into the game because I felt it at the game for sure. It was just they brought back something that was great at one point. I remember for the longest, when they moved into all the black kids and the one that felt like was the Batman, and then they had the Tequila Sunrise one. Like they had so many different styles of like black kids. And for a while, I was like, man, they need to do a white one. They need to do a white one. And when I first saw this one, I was like, man, this is too Real Madrid for me. Like it wasn't like, yes, it was a white kid, but it had obviously colors that it was like a dark, well, it was like a black color, a blue, orange on the, outer rims of the shirt. But man, once I had it in my hands, I fell in love with it immediately. And I just thought it was absolutely gorgeous. I know the guy that creates the jerseys. I mean, he's been doing it for a while, and they already today 2026 they already have the jersey for 2028, and I would love to be in the room to see what they're cooking Because for a while too, we got that purple jersey and a bunch of other things that were like, why are we moving towards this? Right? It wasn't, but this here kind of went full circle. Yes, it was a 20-year celebration, but I hope they really like digged again. They're 2 years already ahead of us, but hopefully they push to this nostalgia and this different or the old identity of championships. And yeah, I reached out to Brian Salazar, who is the guy that creates the kits, and I'm like, dude, like, this is my favorite kid. Thank you so much. Like, genuinely, right? It's like, I mean, I'm sure this guy gets a pat on the back, and I'm sure he also gets the one they're like, oh, this is a bad kid, whatever. But I genuinely was like, dude, this is honestly the my favorite kid of all time for the Dynamo. So that's where I'm at. And again, I know Maddie got to see it as well. I know that at the stadium, I don't know if you were able to see it. I know that they ran out of them pretty quickly because I kept seeing people saying like they have sold out DynaStats.
Yeah, second it came up, like I was waiting, I was refreshing the MLS page, and I bought it as soon as it dropped. Unfortunately it's over in College Station right now, but yeah, I'm looking forward to see it. I really love the Astrodome detailing on it. Like I just think like the design on it just looks incredible. And like you said, it does look like a Real Madrid kit at first, but with that detailing, I think it looks something really special. And I think yeah, already is like an instant classic for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that became an instant classic, and we'll talk a little bit more about the kid, but the biggest news, right? I'm trying to remember when we talked to Pat. I want to say it was on Monday or Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So if you guys have not listened to it, and I'm trying to remember, does that sound right to you? Do you keep up with the stuff? Yeah. So we
Yeah.
talked to Pat Onstad, and then we talked to Jeremy Hurdle, and so we got some news. Obviously, not necessarily of like who was going to be transferred, but it was big news when we all heard about Ezequiel Ponce moving on. I think it was in the making, of course, a guy that had been struggling. Um, I want to rank them, or for you to tell me if this was a full on bust or not. I have my ideas on this. I mean, if you take this season alone, yes, 17 matches, 0 goals, 1 assist. He arrived in June 2024, made 59 appearances for the MLS and scored 15 goals and 3 assists. Fee obviously undisclosed, rumored to be about 2.3 million, whether that's euros or dollars, we will never know. But yeah, I mean, again, it was all written on the wall for sure that this was going to happen. I didn't the more it lingered, I really didn't think it was going to happen, this transfer. But what are your thoughts, man, on him, moving away, going back to Elche, a team that he played for in the past?
Yeah, I mean, when you're making that much money and you're a DP, especially as a number nine, and you're not scoring any goals, it's not a good sign, right? You're pretty literally brought in just to score goals. Obviously, Ponce does a whole lot more than just score goals, and that's like a big part of his game, but he can't be scoring 0 goals. And I think prior to the World Cup break, he was just straight up bad. I felt like his inner play was bad. I felt like he wasn't really doing much. I felt like it was a ghost of the player we saw, even in past years in worse Dynamo teams too. But after the World Cup break, I thought that he was pretty decent. I thought he was unlucky not to have a goal. He had a good assist against Austin. And yeah, with Maguire coming in, I thought the writing was on the wall, especially when I saw Maguire coming in. And then just having Bogusz as well in the ranks as well, that can also come in and play as a nine. Like it did make sense for the Dynamo to move on, especially with the way how their roster is structured. They kind of went all in this year. So trying to, I don't want to get too nerdy, but switching models, trying to recoup some GAM before the end of this year, it just made a lot of sense. Because I know that even though the rules are going to be changing, it's still going to be helpful to have that additional money and just be better suited for next year.
Yeah, and I like the fact that, again, I really thought that he was going to stick around a little longer just because obviously he still had one more year. Do you let him try to continue to find his form? I think they gave him plenty of time, plenty of opportunities. It just did not happen. And yeah, when Maguire got in, and some of the guys like Marcanic ended up finding himself out of the team sheet, you knew it was just a matter of time before someone left. Everybody was hoping Ponce. And to me, just to finish on the Ponce, talk, because we wish him really all the best, right? I think there's no ill will. I know fans are gonna be either one way or the other. You don't score goals, you really don't go far when it comes to the fandom aspect of it, and people fall in love with you. But one thing that you mentioned was that is that he did everything so well, and I think the last few weeks, as you mentioned, after the World Cup, he looked on. He looked on in everything else, but as soon as he got close to the 18, it's like he forgot how to play soccer, like altogether, and there was no confidence in him. Um, so the only point that I think is it really matters. Obviously, we don't know, and we're probably never gonna find out the exact amount that was um received for Ponce. If it's 2 million, you take it and you run with it. And where I was going with this is that you hear a lot of people where I hope they paid 8 million for him, 10 million, however much, and it's like, how much did they pay? It's like, dude, they were able to sell him a guy that hasn't scored. You really take what you can, don't you, DynaStats?
Yeah, I'm surprised a team in La Liga wanted a striker that hasn't scored a single goal in MLS. I mean, I'm not complaining. I think that he needs that change of scenery. From what I saw, some Elche fans do love him for his work rate back when he was there, and that's something that we can never take away from him. He was never a lazy striker. He always put in his 100%. But and that's just not enough when you're a DP. And like you said, he signed him. He was a club record fee. He came in with big expectations. I drafted him in Golden Boot. I thought he was going to be amazing this year, and then
Yeah, exactly. We all had him as, because again, I don't know if he necessarily falls into a bust right away, but then you take the amount that was paid for him, and I think that alone puts him in that category, right? When he was the record transfer fee and everything, the backing that he was receiving, the minutes he was receiving. Now you can definitely vouch for him and play, the devil's advocate about how much service he was really getting, being provided and all this mumbo jumbo. But again, when he was in front of a goal, it just didn't seem like he was on there. And he was Elche played today against Deportivo La Coruña. He made the bench. He did not get to play. So, Ponce goes from a starter to currently on the bench without playing. I'm sure that would change for him. But yeah, we'll say goodbye to Ponce. I know there's plenty of people that absolutely we're glad that he's gone. I know a few fans probably wanted to help him pack and take him to the airport. But you know what? You can rest easy. Uh, that time has come and gone. But all right, DynaStats, let's go ahead and move into the game at hand, being the LA Galaxy game that we spoke about. A 1-0 win. The win streak is extended. This was a game that it could easily be a trap game. I got to talk to a podcast that covers LA Galaxy, and I told them that I was, you look at the table, and yes, you see the difference, right, where the Dynamo stand and Galaxy was, and I told them, I'm like, this is a big game because it's a game that really matters after going on the road and getting two big wins. That's one. But two, there is a big celebration happening. And every time you get a big celebration in a packed stadium, somehow, some way, Houston finds a way to mess it all up. Um, so I really was thinking maybe a draw. And I mean, looking at the stats, it could have ended that, right? I mean, yes, Galaxy didn't get close to goal, but Houston, it wasn't like they took advantage of a lot of opportunities they could have taken, especially when Galaxy goes a man down, early in the first half. Um, but here I'll show the starting lineup. I know it's a little smaller than usual. Basically the same lineup we'd be seeing except for Maguire instead of Ponce. I think this is a solid lineup. I think we finally got a starting lineup, a repeating starting lineup. Dinah says, how much you like this lineup?
no, I really liked it. I mean, it kind of sucks that Andrade wasn't able to play. Andrade is obviously he's been an incredible player this year for us. But with Andrade, like not as right back either, we had a chance to see Inali right back. He was playing in that position for a lot of the game. Saw him switch to the left too, and he was great. I mean, I think that like he really fits this like fullback, almost Griffin Dorsey esque role, which something I was not really expecting from him. He's been doing great in that role. He was And I think Negri is like he's class. And that entire left side is just like filled with so much experience. You have something like a 32-year-old Negri. You have like Guillermo and Ferreira. That entire side. Like when you see them play, you can tell that they're seasoned vets. You need those kind of players. And then you go to the right side and you see McLean, you see Bogush and Nolly. But a lot of youth, a lot of creativity out there too. It's kind of like two different sides of the Dynamo. Really like that.
Yeah, that's so true. And yeah, Nali has definitely for a while we saw he's a fast guy. He's a one-dimensional player. He's changed our mind from his performances as a wingback as of late, or even just playing fullback. But you know, I feel like now it seems like he's struggling a little bit on the attacking side. This wasn't the case against Galaxy. Obviously, he's the guy that gets the penalty foul that helps the Dynamo get the winning goal, and obviously as well for the red card. So he was still getting in behind their defenders, and it was good to see. I still think he struggles dribbling. That's definitely not a forte of his. He's still going to try to just beat you by speed, but on the defensive side, he really struggled early on, as you mentioned, whenever he took over for Griffin. But now he's a pro. I think he understands. Uh, Again, using his speed and trying to beat everybody just on that on a sloppy touch so that he can reach it first. And we've seen him also get some sloppy fouls, right? He gets a little lazy at times when he shouldn't. Not this game. Last game we saw him get a dumb yellow, in my opinion, because he had the guy covered, but he gives him a tug. But those are just defensive things that he has to work on. But yeah, he's great. I think he's a guy that maybe he was in question at one point. Not anymore, man. Not anymore. Um, One thing to add is uh that I found interesting. We especially following the team, covering the team, or even just fans that follow the players. You saw how Ponce and Hector Herrera were like their friendship had blossomed like the last couple months, and it looked like they were having the same haircut, they were dressing the same. So where I'm going with this is there was a lot of chemistry, and you can definitely see it on the field as well. And Hector gets a yellow card, 45th minute plus one, and you could just see how annoyed he was with Maguire being like just very not accurate with his passing. And that's one thing that is it's just gonna take minutes, right? Minutes of them playing DynaStats.
Yeah, Maguire, to be honest, like I wasn't too impressed by his play. His inner play wasn't the best. But like you said, it's early days. It's way too early to give an assessment out on him, especially when, making a switch mid-year is not easy, especially when he didn't even play that many minutes for Orlando this season either. And yeah, Herrera, I think he had, you need moments that like grilling you, where you just need that to grow, especially from a leader like Herrera. I think you remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna throw here the stats for this match. Let me see. Yeah, so 61 possession, which obviously you were probably you're gonna see that before and after the red card, of course. Uh the expected goals very low for both teams. Houston didn't do a lot. I think they did a good job managing the game. Because again, especially with those red cards, you can easily try to be more, full throttle. And a team like Galaxy has weapons, especially on the transition game with Pencil and Chucky Lozano at this point. They got some minutes as well. Um, that just can definitely put you on, on your toes, and just making sure that you track back and everybody. I feel like they did a really good job. I mean, yes, it was a 1-0. Yes, you're playing a bad team, but those are the games that you have to win no matter what. And, getting that win in front of the full stadium. I mean, they said it was a sold out. There were some spots, but I mean, you get 20,000 people in that stadium, and it's great. The atmosphere was great. Um, Going back real fast to atmosphere. I don't know about you, man, but I really dig this tifo that the supporters put out there. I know they were getting a lot of crap AI. I'm like, dude, I saw this guy. So, I mean, I'm friends with a few of them. Shout out to Hooties. And I saw them like put a lot of work into it. Whatever it took to make it cool, graphic. And they painted this thing by hand. They were out there, putting sweat and tears into it. So, and that just right there elevates, right? It elevates the atmosphere. And it was a good one. It was definitely a good one, man. But Guillermo, we mentioned about the penalty, gets another goal. I think you put out a stat out there. How many goals and assists did he had, DynaStats?
I think like when you go by FilmOb, it says 12 goals and 5 assists. Obviously, MLS's assist numbers are inflated, but still, it's absolutely crazy return. I think he has 5 goals in his last 6 games.
And
Just
he beat out,
what a
I think we
player.
talked about this. Stan Ferreira was the one that he
He-
just beat out, right? I mean,
yeah,
who had a great year that first year for sure.
and he
And
still has 14 games to go. He
yeah.
might. This is probably going to be the most. I mean, I'm not gonna jinx it, but he's on track to be the best individual attacking season any Dynamo player has ever had.
Yeah, and so the game ends up being I don't know if I put the graphic of here or a picture of Guillermo, but he ends up obviously winning. Let me see. I had the standout letdown. We don't necessarily have to talk about that. I think it's a well-rounded team. I do want to point out though that a player that we saw the substitution going through here real fast. I'll mention the guys that came in. We saw Dwayne Holmes come in and Linger come in. Bossat, Jaje, Samaseko, and then Aliu. Aliu gets a quick yellows. The second one was not a yellow. I don't know if you got to see it. I know you were at the stadium, but I don't know if you got to see the replay. And Pencil was on him. He was the one pulling him. Give him another yellow. Absolutely stupid that the ref didn't go look at that. Um, but the one out of everybody, man, that it just like does not do anything for me now is Andre. Andre Linger looks so lost to me that he doesn't know how to read the game at times. And I understand he's definitely rusty. He has not getting that many minutes. But you don't know, sometimes they give him a ball that's a through ball and he goes out to a corner, makes a pass instead of going forward. And sometimes he's right in front and he decides to make the pass. So he's the one out of this game specifically that I just feel like, man, he may be the next one to go, right? Especially if they're looking for attacking pieces to take over what is currently open with the possibility of bringing another DP. I don't think Linger is doing himself a case to stay here any longer, man.
Yeah, I agree. Langer, I kind of feel bad for him. It kind of just feels like it just hasn't really worked out for him. He had a few really good moments last season. I know he had like a couple of late goals. He scored the winner against Austin. Yeah, he's a good player, but it just hasn't really worked out. And I don't really know if like the strategy from this team this offseason of just bringing in Guillermo and Bogusz, I think that really like made it so much harder for him because enough like a position which I kind of see him playing. And
Yeah, because I mean, he debuted it with he scored a goal right in his debut, or he scored a brace. I can't remember, but he scored right off the bat, and
yeah,
you just saw him. He's definitely a hungry player. He's a versatile player, so that definitely wins you brownie points in this team. I think that Ben definitely looks at players that can play multiple positions, and every time we've asked Andre any questions about playing or where does he feel better, he's just like, I just want to play. Like wherever they tell me to play, I just want to play. So I definitely like the attitude. I just feel that you're not seeing a lot for a guy that was technically brought in as a DP, right? Got bought down as a TAM. And I do feel that he has better qualities than all those the guys that, left previously, Kovacic, Bossy. He has a little bit more flair, a little bit, but it's just about getting that rhythm. And I don't know if you're not taking advantage of the minutes you're playing, because in this game he played nearly 30 minutes, which is quite a lot from other times that we've only seen him come in 5-10 minutes. So and it was a time for Houston to take advantage of that, being a man down. Galaxy was, so it is one of those that, again, it was, the transition was there, those moments were there, and he was just he was not clean with the ball. um Anybody else that you were impressed by, or maybe disappointed apart from Linger? And we'll move on. We're doing good timing, man. 24 minutes in, so we can preview the upcoming matches here.
Yeah, I mean, but after all that McGuire almost like slander I gave a little bit while back, one thing that I did really like was he had one really nice chance where he like backheeled the ball towards Bogush and only in the first half. That was incredible. I thought like, damn, this guy's amazing. Obviously, like the game hasn't really like didn't really go his way after that. I mean, talk about McGuire, but apart from that, I felt like Augustine Resch had an absolutely incredible game. Like watching Resch, I'm like, wow, this guy is how is this guy in college? How is this guy a third round draft pick? Because he looks like your center back.
And that was I think I mentioned it on our Discord. Which, by the way, Bayou Benter, I know there's quite a few guys, here in our on our Discord. Every match day, feel free to blow it up. But in our internal one, I mentioned how Resh Resh obviously is playing well, but Pan Onstad just hitting on this $80,000 a year center backs is crazy, right?
Yeah, I
Crazy.
mean, it's such a bargain having him, and I'm sure he's going to ask for a big contract now. I'm sure there's some smart teams out there. I'm sure they're going to be in for that signature. He's a 6'5" center back with great mobility, and he had an amazing long pass to Linger. I think that's a chance you're talking about. But Linger kind of messed it up towards the end,
Yep.
but he was just incredible. Like I don't think he put a foot wrong that game, and that's just been the tale these last few games. Where especially since Halter's come back, it's just like Rush has been incredible. Halter next to him too.
Yeah, and obviously at this point, you mentioned Sviatchenko is staying on the bench because you can't really bench Reg with how he's playing, and now with Antonio Carlos being back as well, there's gonna be a couple guys, riding the bench if this partnership between him and Halter just continues to be so good. And I mean, both of those guys are big. I mean, Halter is a tank, and we know the tower that Reg is, so apart from you would be like, oh well, they can win everything in the air, which they do, but they're really good with their feet and they're very composed. For both of them being very young, right? It's funny because Halter is only 26 and he's been playing way more professional. Yes, it's 2 years older than Resh, and Resh is a rookie when it comes to the professional realm. So, no, it's been a great partnership, and it looks like that's the partnership for the future, and is working out. And it just those are the two guys we're talking about. Of course, it takes the entire team and Bond, but that's 4 clean sheets in a row as well. Which again, you take it with a grain of salt because of the teams you're playing against. However, those are still teams that are very talented. They've been able to get a goal or two in other matches, even if they lose. So it's important to definitely stay focused. And was a game without Ben Olsen. We knew that he was going to be out because of yellow card accumulation. Juan Guerra once again takes over. Juan Guerra is still undefeated and 100%, 3 out of 3 when he, checks in for Ben Olsen being red carded. And Christian Putellas was able to be there, ask him questions at the end. And I love it because, yes, we know what the cliche answer is going to be when you ask somebody about, like, hey, did you look at the standings? Because the game ended and Houston Dynamo were first in the group or in the conference and did not end that, or is not like that right now because of the team that they'll be taking on Wednesday. And we'll talk about them. But it was just that importance of like, hey, things are working out. There's this amount of clean sheets, there's this amount of wins. You're first in the group, but you still have to take it a game at a time. And I think that's important. And is that humility that Ben obviously has been talking about. Just it's like, hey, things are going well. But we've also seen it go the other way, right? That there's been like 5, 6 games that the team's not doing well, DynaStats. But overall, before we move into the Vancouver game, just your thoughts on Houston right now today. How you feel. I know maybe, and you said it earlier, like I don't want to get too nerdy, but I mean, there's definitely underlying numbers that could be worrisome to some, right?
Yeah, I think just taking a look at goal difference first of all, like just saying that like we're it's in a completely different, like a very mid tier compared to like an elite team. And we're on cloud nine right now. We've won 4 straight games, 4 straight clean sheets, first time in club history. And you know what? It's all power to the players for that. They went out, they gave 4 great wins. And MLS is a league where any team can win on any night. You see small teams always upset big teams, and being like, it's not like you're playing against United playing against, I don't know, a Grimsby. Okay, that's a bad example, but
Yeah.
um, like it's always like good teams playing against each other, and like no matter what, like no matter who the opponents are, 4 wins in a row is nothing to like downplay.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this coming week is a very,
It's a
very difficult week.
crucial week. Yeah. I know you mentioned it to us, and I was like, yeah, I mean, you play Vancouver. Obviously, then you start looking at St. Louis is starting to kind of pick up the rhythm as well. And they lost some key players, which I found interesting that, they're starting to. And obviously, they knocked out the Dynamo in US Open Cup competition. They're going to 2 road games this week, 2 tough ones for sure. So we'll definitely push that way. The last thing to add, the celebration as well, right? 20 years from the championship, from the first championship for the Houston Dynamo. It was cool to see that. I know that you mentioned, being too young to remember, but I was laughing because I took my son. My son, I don't want to push my fandom to my kids, and I always say that, when we're here covering Bayou City Soccer, I definitely remove my fandom, and you guys know this. If every time, and I tell you guys all the time, like if we're on the Discord and we're talking, I'm gonna be a fan as much as I can. But whenever we're doing our best to cover the team and get the news out there that people really want to know, I'm not there. I'm not fangirling. I'm just being as much as professional as I can. But anyways, going to my son is the fact that he wanted to go. He had been asking to go to the Dynamo game, or he just asked, "Can we go to the stadium?" He loves it, and so my plan was to go and cover it, like in the press box, just because I hadn't been in a couple weeks. But my son was like, "No, I really want to go," and I was like, "You know what? You're asking. I'd be a terrible dad if I don't take you." And then when we were looking at, when they're in the halftime and they're showing the players, and they show all the players and he's looking at them, and I can see them, like he's trying to figure out, like, these guys were soccer players, right? Because now they look much older, gray hair, no hair, wrinkly, and then they show the videos you're talking about, like the atmosphere of like them showing them winning this trophies, and so I was like, that's them. Like I was trying to explain to him, I was like, hey, that's them, and he kept looking at him like, man, they're old. Like it was so funny. His reaction was priceless, and that's one of the biggest things. So just finishing out like the being in the atmosphere. It's fun because as much as you feel like, I don't know about you, right? But you probably see yourself as like the biggest Dynamo fan. I don't know if you are or not, or you feel that way, but everybody that follows the team is like, I'm the biggest fan. Like there's no one like me, right? And I think that's because you're like, oh, name me. I can name you such and such from this team, or who won this, and like you can go into really random details of the teams that you follow. And I found it fascinating because I was there. I'm usually pretty relaxed. I'm not talking to people, and just hearing everybody around me, the way that they expressed about the Dynamo, I was like in heaven. I was like, oh my god, like you forget, right? Especially because we remove ourselves again, as I mentioned, being in the press box and being in a different realm. And whenever I do get those opportunities to get back into the seats, I take it all in because I'm like, this is great. Like next to us, another couple with a little girl, all Dynamo out. Next to me is probably a guy about my age, maybe a little younger, and he was like, so like, showing everybody the replica ring that they gave out or people were buying, and that right there just makes you feel good. It makes you feel good because for a long time, I felt like the Dynamo weren't good and there was not a lot of people in the stadium. And currently, it's on and off DynaStats, right? Whenever the amount of people you get in there. But whenever you start seeing them win and you start seeing people enjoy it, and I think that one of the things I saw was Astros were playing a big series and it still was a sold out game. So there's no excuse that it can be done, man. And that's important to note, DynaStats.
Yeah, I
Did
know that you
did you get the ring, by
mentioned.
the way? Did you get the ring, by
Yeah,
the way?
I
There
got
you
the I
go.
got the ring right here. Yeah, I'm really happy
Love it.
about this. It's such a good a giveaway, and I really like even the quality of the box too. Like everything is just, I feel like they did it. Like it's very easy to make fun of the Dynamo's marketing and like all the things they do, but they did they knocked it out of the park yesterday on Saturday. I think they did great. And coming back to, I know you talked about like a lot of families that grew up watching the Dynamo at the game. I felt that like where I was sitting, there was a lot of younger people, and there was a lot of young people also having fun watching the game. I think that getting both of those, what do you call, audiences in and getting both of them engaged is really nice, especially when you consider that the Dynamo did have really good attendance the first few years. And I think they should be also working on getting those people back, people that maybe haven't come for a game in over a decade. I see that and like, damn, I remember the Dynamo when they were good. I should go. And I know that they do like team nights every single year. I think that they have to do a throwback night every single year now. Like throwback night, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they won it back to back. So 2027, you have to do it again,
Yeah,
right? 20 years as well. Absolutely, man. I agree with you. And yeah, it's a fun moment. It's a fun atmosphere. I was trying to make like take my kid to do everything. Like, obviously after win or loss, El Batallón and the supporters get together and kind of like walk out, making a big party. So I made sure to be over there and see them kind of walk out. And I missed the flare once I started doing the flare and all that. I saw it driving by because I got there literally right as I walked to the stadium, so I knew I was late. And then on the way out, I missed them again. But no, man, fantastic atmosphere, and I can't wait to be back. And we'll be there a couple of weeks from now. I know you're back outside of town, in the next home game, but I'm sure you'll be thinking about it, and as quickly as you can get back, dude. But um, before we move on to the Vancouver game and the St. Louis game a little bit, just want to give a shout out. Obviously, everybody that follows Bayou Banter, thank you guys for commenting on here. I do see Maddie, Edgar, Jay Hurtado, Jeff, or some of the numbers I see when I scroll. Thank you guys for joining us. Obviously, you can be a part of our Discord. It's a membership. It helps us, allocate some of the funds to pay, the website and all this stuff, all the boring stuff that helps us stay alive and create this content. And then obviously, just a shout out to our friends and our sponsors. We have Elotes Bravos, which I didn't get in elotes, and I was kind of bummed this weekend. So I'll definitely have to go and get an elotes in a cup next game. We also have Unisport. They do a really good job. We have some big plans with them. So, keep an eye out. Obviously, you have the Bayou City 10 discount that you can use at their stores. They have one in Tomball and one in Westheimer. So make it out there. Get yourself, jersey, whether it be the Dynamo or whatever it be. Any team. I know the EPL is about to kick off. La Liga just started, as we talked about. Ezequiel Ponce. I don't think they sell an Elche jersey, but you can ask. They could try to help you out. But yeah, I mean, basically, I don't know if you got to go to that store yet, DynaStats or not, but it's massive, dude. It's probably, growing up, I wish that was a thing because I always made my parents take me as kids. And, you just bought what you saw. But at this point, you pretty much everything. I mean, they even had Wrestling there, obviously, the national team jerseys as well, and all the fun stuff. And then last but not least, I do want to give a shout out to Ugly Guppy. Obviously, Ugly Guppy was one of our very first sponsors that reached out when we became Bayou City Soccer. And we have been in the works to create a shirt that people could buy. We just wanted to kind of figure out what to do, something special. So we're kicking off our store. We finally were able to set up our store. So anybody that's interested, and again, this it's a really small. Basically, is you paying is cost that you're taking care of when you buy this shirt, and a couple dollars go our way. But it goes a long way. So if you feel free, I know I had it towards the end, but Jay Hurtado said new buy City Soccer shirt. Yes, I'll go ahead and share them with you. This is purely there has been other designs that were worked on, and I know it may be difficult to see it on the stream. You can check out our social medias, but it was purely the brain of Christian Putalia. So we give him all the credit here. He came up with it. So basically, Bayou City Soccer in the front, with the soccer ball, kind of like the World Cup soccer ball. And then on the back is every game and every result from the games that took place in Houston. So that shirt that I think there's a couple different sizes when you visit the website. Um, so thank Jeff said I ordered 2 shirts. Thank you, man. Goes a long way. Yeah, we hope that you guys enjoy that shirt. I'm already planning. I have a really good idea for the next one, and so we'll work with Ugly Guppy to have this releases every so often. So that way they can get all the orders through and then fulfill it and send it out and about everywhere in obviously Houston, but elsewhere. I hope that we can get to see how far the shirts go. If we get some, I mean, let's go crazy. I mean, we do have listeners, international listeners as well. So we'll see if any of those shirts make it that far out. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited. This kicks off we, and it's funny. I mean, full transparency, and I feel like I always overshare maybe, but we did have one a store when we started, and but it was one of those stores that just took forever to fulfill, and I don't know exactly where I'm assuming it was probably from my side of the U.S. when all this was taken care of, but it would just take like a month to get stuff. And it was good. I don't know if anybody bought some. I actually had one of my favorite ones. I realized that, I mean, at this point it's almost 3-4 years old and like it's finally like coming off the back. And I was like, man, I like this shirt. And then also, I don't know if you got to see it, DynaStats, but whenever the Dynamo made it back into the playoffs for the first time in like forever, Ugly Guppy created like this belief shirt, sort of like Ted Lasso theme. And dude, that one's still in great shape. And so you're gonna get a good product with Ugly Guppy for Bayou City. But like if you ever need them, for your own business, reach out for your T-ball team, for your softball team, whatever it may be that you need marketing, man, reach out to Ugly Guppy. Carlos is fantastic. And they do a great job of just fulfilling it and helping create as well as stores. So that's just a good partnership that we've had throughout the year. So I'm extremely excited to finally have the store through them, so we can put out more merchandise. And yeah, keep an eye out. This one, it's a limited edition, so I believe the store closes in like 15 days, if I'm not mistaken. So get it while you can, and once it's fulfilled, we'll move away and we'll create another shirt link up there. So yeah, excited for that. So that's what I wanted to see, and obviously you can follow us on pretty much every social media platform as Bayou City Soccer, and obviously check out our website at BayouCitySoccer.net. All right, DynaStats, I got all the housekeeping out of the way. Nice shirt, right?
Yeah, I think it's really clean. It's a good memoir as well. When's the next time the World Cup's going to come back to Houston? I think it's just nice to have that just as a memory.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, and again, we give full credit to Christian. Next time, you give him a pat on the back. I know that he charges like $5 for a picture, but maybe he give you a discount just because you said something nice to him. But all jokes aside, man, let's move into the Vancouver game. I know you have a lot to say. I think you mentioned that this is one of your favorite games of the year. I think I agree with you. So moving into this game, be taking place at BC Place, so we get more turf games for the Houston Dynamo. They'll be playing this Wednesday night, a late game, 9:30 p.m. I hope that I can stay alive the entire game, awake. Hopefully, I am alive, but awake for the entire game, especially if they make it another thrilling, like 10-goal game, brother. And the question is really, can they, keep a positive streak? This is the first place against the second place team in the West going at it. It should be a fun game. And tell us why you like this game so much, man. This matchup, at least.
Yeah, I think Vancouver has historically been a very difficult place for the Dynamo to visit. And I remember a couple of years ago there was this like incredible game where we won. I think it was 4-3. It's probably one of my favorite Dynamo games of all time. Dorsey brace, Brad Smith banger. that was just that one game, and then just staying up late, 9:30, watching the Dynamo play on that awful artificial turf. It's kind of something that I've grown to like recently.
When let me see, I'm going through the funny enough, let me see the games we're talking about. Oh shoot, should hit head to head. The games we're talking about, because I think Houston obviously just beat them, right? It was a 1-0, and that's how the positive streak in the regular season started for the Dynamo, was beating Vancouver at home. But it wasn't long ago. It was 2023 when we had that Vancouver 6-2 Houston Dynamo. We had a another in September of 2023. We had Houston winning 4-1. And then after that 6-2 game, being those MLS After Dark, I think Maddie mentioned said that as well, or Jeff. But whenever they played in 2024, I remember, they always Jag from the comms team tends to reach out like, hey, just FYI, this is a late game. If you guys can, stay with us. And I literally told them, I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll be up for another, 8-goal, thriller. It got close. Dynamo ended up winning 4-3 that game. So there were 7 goals in that game. And I stayed awake. So if you give us action, we'll watch it for sure, man. But yeah, I think that these games are one of those that it's basically like, it seems when they go at it, it's like two featherweights just kind of like punching, throwing all kinds of punches, see if they hit or not. And it makes these games very good. And at this point, Vancouver is coming from playing the Sunday night soccer game against Seattle Sounders, which, man, what the heck is happening to the Sounders? I have no clue. Um, and the picture that I had, and I don't know if it is them basically getting the Cascadia Cup, which is their, Copa Tejas equivalent, between them and Portland and Seattle. So Vancouver, it's a team that it's on the it may relocate, it may not relocate, like all these things kind of happening, off the field for that fandom. And it's sad. It's a little disappointing that is the case, but we've seen it before for Vancouver in general for other sports. But they keep doing, a really good job. Obviously, they made it all the way to the MLS Cup final last year, and it's like even losing Bellhalter, which really felt that he was like the glue to it all. They're still finding ways to win. DynaStats.
Yeah, this is their first win in a while. Actually, this is their first win since the World Cup break, and obviously, losing Berhalter, who was arguably one of the top 5 players in the league before the break, that does really hurt. And they even, I think Brian White right now is hurt as well too. Like he didn't start the Seattle game either. But yeah, they got their first 3 points. Obviously, like you said, Seattle, they're in a very uncharacteristic slump right now, which is crazy to see. But yeah, this Vancouver team, they're also like not as strong as they maybe once were. And obviously, Vancouver is a hard place to go play at. And I saw that they have, I think, a 7-1-1 record there. So they only lost one game, only drew one this season there. But at the same time, they had a pretty bad Leagues Cup as well. They lost all three other games. They lost to Tigres on penalty, and then lost to honestly pretty bad Liga MX teams in Juarez and Atlante. So you never know. I'm hoping for the Dynamo's sake that Vancouver isn't the best.
Yeah, and definitely Juarez, it becomes Real Madrid when they go into Leagues Cups, bro. Like they just completely change who they are in Liga MX and are just unstoppable. They just are fun to watch in Leagues Cup. But yeah, I think it's a team that I know when we first saw well, not that we first saw this game, but moving from the weekend game to this, I feel like you were, I don't want to say you were pessimistic, but you're like, ugh, yeah, I can tell you why this is going to be a rough week for the Dynamo. And I totally agree with you. I think I could see it being very negative. I can see them, after this beautiful streak, they can get back-to-back losses. It's something that can happen. But then, staying on the positive end, I also see it as like, well, they already beat Vancouver once. why can't they do it again, right? And yes, it's definitely different, but they are coming from going to a New England Revolution in a tough environment. They were playing in heat, they were playing in turf. A lot of things not going their way. They definitely look a little shaky. Man, New England, it's a similar team in the sense of like the talent is there as well. So I think I would love to see him get a positive, you know, um, result here. I don't know if necessarily it's going to be a win, but I could see them, dr- draw in this match just because of what we've seen from them when it comes to possession and draining opportunities. The one thing that I was really felt that it was going to happen against Galaxy is the fact that I felt Galaxy could put away chances, which other teams hadn't. And I know for a fact that Vancouver is going to put away chances if you let them, just because of you take Mueller into account. Yes, that's one guy, but there's so many other guys that are so dangerous, and it's difficult. I don't know. I know we tend to put out our predictions for the games, and I think I'm going to be very torn between Houston losing and Houston getting a draw, but really hoping that it's a win, right, for Houston. Just if we're gonna put out there, just to keep climbing that mountaintop. I mean, how big of a statement it would be, right? That the power rankings and just everybody around the MLS and all the MLS sickos have no faith in the Dynamo. So why can't we that cover the team and are see how they play? Why can't we see also yeah, man, this team should be taking, into account DynaStats.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a star like Guillermo up front, it's very easy to believe. I think that just his presence and his form just makes it a lot easier to believe too. But then, taking a step back on that too, like I think even if the Dynamo go 0 for 2 this week and don't get a point, I still don't think that this Dynamo team is a bad team by any means. This would be in a really good position.
Yes.
And like at the very start of the season, the aim was top four, and top four was exactly what Ben, Pat. Like that's something they always reiterated was their goal. And I think that this team, even I'm not going to say we shouldn't dream for first place, but even if we don't get first place, I think we're in a really good spot just to get that top four, and that's should be our aim still.
Do you happen to remember what you predicted this Dynamo team to be at the start of the season? Do you happen to remember?
I think it was on the fifth or sixth.
Okay. Yeah, and that's where I was going with it. I remember the time that they went as far as fourth place in 2024 or 2023. I really felt that to be the case. Like I felt um that the team could actually do that, and I wasn't surprised when they did it. And I feel that in this one, because it felt like a rebuild year from a really disappointing year, I'm with you. I felt like they'll make the playoffs, but it's gonna be, right there in seventh place, maybe even a play in. And yeah, I don't know. Okay, dude, I'm looking at you. What you said sixth place? I'm looking at it. I can tell you.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too. I said third place. I was really
Yeah.
optimistic, apparently.
Yeah, so yeah, and again, this is definitely there's 14 games, 15 games to play, as you mentioned. So Juan has them fifth, Madeline has them fourth, Joey third, you have them on third, Dustin, Christian, and Manny all have them in sixth, and I was pessimistic. I had them seventh place. So um yeah, I think and definitely we'll come back to this because we literally all have like Ezequiel Ponce. I think there's only a couple Guillermo, which I think was Maddie and Manny. So for top scorers. So yeah, it's fun to go back and watch all that stuff. But yeah, just to make a point that this team has definitely overperformed to the expectations that the outsiders had. But whenever you actually see this team and you talked about the experience and you see just the way from comparing it purely on last year was like, what the heck happened? You built two very good years and then you pull the plug on it to play younger guys or very inexperienced guys, or what I told the guys from the Galaxy show, I was like, 2025, they really wanted to play some of those guys that were borderline starters, like Ethan Barlow, like players like that. They just weren't ready for it, and it was very evident. And talking about Ethan Barlow, he just got loaned out to Tampa Bay Rowdy, so the level has dropped, and it's important to see the amount of scouting that took place and the amount of money that was put into place, which to be fair, yes, it's never going to be a big spending team, right, ever. But if they hit on more than they don't, I think that's the key. That's the key, DynaStats. I mean, really, I don't think nobody really thought Guillermo was going to be the player he was. I wasn't as negative as other people. They're like, look at this guy. He's just terrible with Santos. And we've talked about this, you know, to death. But it was the fact I'm like, dude, just seeing the guy being in front of goal, more than any other Dynamo player you've seen in the last 3-4 years. That's something that you got to take with positivity, man. Um, Going quick, finishing the Vancouver game, I do have a graphic of their last starting lineup. Um, Again, I mentioned Mueller. Mueller's a beast. He's pure class. Anybody else from that starting lineup that you are kind of like, yeah, this is great? Number 59 did get a concussion, and was had to be taken out. But yeah, anybody else that you're like, okay, we can contain, the Dynamo can contain Mueller, but this other guy can, do it, tear the team apart.
This team has good depth. I remember like watching Sabi last time the time we played against them. He was pretty good on the wing. I think he was playing on the left. And I think they signed Sabali this season. He was like a
Yep.
pretty decently sized signing for them too. And I know they have Kubas is a pretty good six. He's been in the league for a while. He almost like reminds me a bit of Arturo at that stage.
Yeah.
And then Laraz recently, their his like partner in his pivot, he's kind of I guess been tasked to take over Berhalter's responsibilities, which is a very big shoe to fill. But I think he's done pretty well with that. And then at right back they have Odero Campo, he was giving the Dynamo a lot of headaches the last time they played. He kind of reminds you of Benali, where he's pretty much a winger playing fullback, and he really brings a lot of like troubles. And then Laborda, center back as well. This is a pretty damn good team. There's a reason why they made MLS Cup. There's a reason why they're first in the league right now.
Yeah, like I said, it's incredible just the amount of we've talked about this team in Vancouver of, you take past coaches and how they were played really, really well one game and they were just very inconsistent, right? Up and down, up and down. And this new project, the last 2 years, the last 3 years, it's a Vancouver team that, you know, they're showing the class and just the amount of as you said, depth, right? I mean, they're missing White for because of injuries and stuff like that, and other players are finding ways to score. I think it's uh it's a team that are fun to watch. Mueller has definitely put a completely different level to what was already a very good team. And yeah, I mean, you see him. I did watch most of all the first half against Seattle, and you see how this guy's the quarterback of the team. Like he just finds ways to. Yes, we know how much of a class he is individually, but the way that he just is pointing to open spaces, telling like his team like where to go with the ball, and he's just a coach in the middle of the field, and his teammates tend to listen to him, and so because of the leadership that he has, and things are just happening in a smooth way. And again, you mentioned some of the players they've lost, but it feels like it really hadn't made a big difference. They did struggle in Leagues Cup, as we spoke about, but even then, I mean, then you see other teams like we talked about Seattle, but San Jose was another guy that was another team with just I don't know first place for the longest time with Timo Wagner, and now they're like in a 5-6 game losing streak as well. So there's definitely going to be up and downs, and you hope that Houston stays on the positive end of stuff against this Vancouver game, which again we're predicting possibly not the best of results just because of and that's okay. But then, you have to flip the switch quite quickly after Wednesday. And yeah, we will get to talk to Ben tomorrow. So keep an eye out for the pressers. For them, Wednesday is going to be a busy Dynamo or Houston to that fact. Uh, because Dynamo 2 plays on Wednesday, the Dash play on Wednesday, and the Dynamo play on Wednesday. So every single professional team in the city of Houston are playing. But again, game ends. You have to fly home, get everything, figure out quite quickly. That's if they fly home. I didn't even see the schedule. I'm assuming they do. And then obviously they do have to go out to St. Louis. Another team that has kind of struggled to find their identity after such a great and promising start to their history in the league. And I mentioned that they've lost some of their key players. I mean, what's the guy's name that scored against them in the U.S. Open Cup against Dynamo?
Marcel Hartel,
Yeah, he
he's
just he
really
just
good.
he just left, didn't he?
Yeah, he went back
Yep.
to the Bundesliga.
Yeah, and I think people are saying I think they bought him for like 2 million like it was a small amount. And anyways, but yeah, I mean, this is a team that are finding the rhythm. That's a tough place. We did get to visit it. I think it was me, Chris, and Joey went out there like 2 years ago. I think it was their debut season, and it's an incredible atmosphere. I mean, they just do it well. They make the stadium very intimidating. Obviously, they have a good crowd. It is a Saturday game, not a midweek game, so you know that there's going to be a good atmosphere there, and it's just telling in the sense of like very tough matches. St. Louis currently in sixth place. Um, do they have a midweek game? That's the one thing that I didn't check. I'm
Yeah, they play
assuming
against SKC, so it's another rivalry game. So I just
a
noticed
rivalry
that
game. Yeah.
both Vancouver and St. Louis are coming off rivalry games. So hopefully they're a little hungover from that, a little too focused on that to worry about.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, so the team again is that it's kicking in all cylinders, man, too. And they're coming. I'll give you they they haven't lost since May as well, like the Dynamo. So yeah, they are in really good shape. They the last four games, they beat Galaxy 3-1. They beat Colorado 1-0. They just drew against Salt Lake 1-1. And they're coming from beating that San Jose team that I speak about. That is currently on a bit of a slump. So yeah, this team, it's an interesting one for sure. But we can't really think too much ahead. They do have some really good players. Obviously, Lowen had been dealing with a lot of stuff personally that kind of bled into his career, but it looks like he's finally being that starter that we knew that he was at DP. Their striker, as a guy that he scored against the Dynamo. I think that that we went to that game. He would come off the bench, but since Joe Klaus and maybe it was the guy you spoke that got moved, was a striker. Now he's a starter. Now is it Beecher? Beecher? Um, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
remember
a
he's
it's a
yeah.
fun game, man. It's a fun team. Sorry.
No, he scored against the Dynamo, I think, for Vancouver too. He used to be a former Vancouver
Yes.
player as well.
Yes.
That's pretty interesting. I know that, like, I was checking like striker stats, and I was looking at the most like inefficient strikers in MLS. Mainly to just like take a look at where Ponce ranked, and he was up there. He was even more inefficient than Ponce was. Like uh, he's had a lot of chances. I don't know if he scored in the last game. I think San Jose game, but yeah, he's been pretty inefficient. I'm not gonna say too much bad about him, otherwise he's gonna strike back against me. But
Yeah.
it's a damn good team.
I know we touched a little bit on it, but Jeff does ask, do you think Duncan is still trying to find his way on this team? I want to say yes. I think it's a guy that was trying to find his way with Orlando from injuries. So he's trying to find his way in a brand new team in the Dynamo. I think he will get there. I think he has a lot of positives to his game. Definitely not the high motor pressure that Ponce had, but he has enough. He has enough to create a little bit of that. And he really gives me, and I don't want to like Well, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and compare him now if it pans out or not. But he gives me a lot of like Will Bruin vibes. Yeah, I don't know if you remember Will Bruin, a big dude, heavy dude that he was. I mean, he can definitely run in behind. I think Juan Guerra mentioned it a little bit after the game that that he believed he's like, I don't know if it was injury, I don't know if it was because of Duncan, but that substitution of putting Garces, who ends up getting red carded, was because of Duncan's speed, because he doesn't seem like he's that fast, but he is pretty quick. He is pretty quick. Um, but if he's your starter now, he needs to get on the board quite quickly. In my opinion, I don't know what do you think, DynaStats? Like he needs to score against Vancouver, St. Louis this week.
I don't know. I think obviously that's a choice that Ben has to make, but I think a big player in that is also Bogush. I remember Ben earlier in the season, like that he said, like talk to Bogush, tell him, stay on the wing. There's chances for you on the wing. And that means that Bogush has asked to play down the middle. That's where he's most comfortable with. And that versatility, I'm sure that that's something that's keeping Ben up at night too, just thinking, can I play Bogush there as well? And if you move Bogush to the middle, we have space for potentially McGlynn or Anali on the wing as well. So that's another option that we could go down. But obviously, they paid good money for Maguire. He wasn't cheap at all. So the hope is that they can have him and Bogush, I guess, can have like a true fight for the number 9 position.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Again, we won't really predict this game against St. Louis. I hate looking too forward into the future. Um, so my question to you, the DP spot, right? There is an open DP spot if they want to continue with this 3-3 model. Or I mean, they could technically also go to a 2-4 model. But say they go with a 3-3 model. Should, and you're, again, this is purely your opinion. Do you think they need to go ahead and try to get somebody now, because of the sprint season and everything kind of shifting quite quickly, or you think it's something that they could hold on to and just wait till you know January or December at this rate?
I don't know. I mean, I think that's mainly just down to Pat's what like his best judgment is. I know that what he did last year, like part of the reason why last year's team was so bad is because they were really playing Moneyball out there. They were playing with a bunch of cheap players, and they would almost like trying to go all in for this year. They were already like saving up their GAM, saving up all of their money. I think that's something that we went all in this year, and we need to worry. We need to start thinking about 2027 as well. I think they might just go for that 2-4. Hopefully, sign a U22 to that last spot, and then just try and have additional money to iterate on this team next year.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see, right? I mean, they could surprise us and get somebody like I don't want to call it blockbuster, by any means, but you never know. They could surprise us and kind of just throw it, because again, if they really feel that this team is as competitive as it's looked, and they're able to throw in a DP wherever it's another attacking player or a striker or a winger that they've been kind of also talking about. Um, because at this point, center back, I think it's going to be very difficult to see Zvychenko move or Carlos. So I think the depth is there. But so again, if you're going to win, you talk about the goal scoring difference, right? That's where you kind of have to put that money in. Um, so I mean, again, who knows? It's interesting, and we'll see it happen. We still have a couple of weeks before the transfer market closes. So we'll kind of keep an eye out on that. Just to finish off the podcast episode, thank you guys again for joining us. Just Dynamo 2 news. They did end up losing to a team that seems to have their number in Ventura County. Ventura County, if you guys remember, were the ones that ended their win streak. I think it was like in May or June. Um, and as I mentioned, now Dynamo 2 are going to be playing at home. So if you're interested, if you want to make it out to that game, it's free to anybody to go to. You just go get some tickets. They'll be playing at 6 p.m. So don't worry, you'll have plenty of time to make it to the 9:30 game at night for the Dynamo against Vancouver. But they'll be taking on San Jose Earthquakes too. And then on Sunday, they will also be traveling to St. Louis City to take on St. Louis City 2. So Houston's still, one of the best teams in their conference. They did drop to third place after being first and second for quite basically the entire, I don't know, couple. Well, I mean, they're 21 games in, so there's not a lot of games left. But it looks like they should be making the playoffs. So we'll leave it at that. There will be or what's it go Tuesday, which is a Dynamo 2 related article tomorrow. So we'll give you more information on that. But DynaStats, thank you once again for joining us. Anything that we missed or that you feel is important that we should touch on before we call it quits?
No, thank you for having me. It's been great being here.
Yeah, and I'll shout DynaStats. He has a website and he does a really good job on that. I don't I'm sure you're updating it as weekly as daily as you can. So if you guys are MLS sickos and you numbers, I don't want to call you a nerd, man. I think we're all a little nerdy in this group. Some of us are more nerdy than others. But if you like numbers and stats, actually, not thinking about that. Did you notice at the game, DynaStats, that they kept putting like all kinds of stats, especially in the warm-ups? Did you notice that? That's new. I hadn't seen that. I don't know if you
It's
noticed
like on the side screen, right? On the
on
side
the
screen,
side
they're like,
screen.
I think they've
Yeah,
been doing that for a bit, but like the stats are just outright wrong. Like in the very first minute, it said that we had like one expected goals and they had point 0.5, and neither team had even gotten a shot yet. Which like
yeah.
I don't really, I'm not really sure if I trust that, but it's nice that it's up there. I think they get a lot of cool stats, and I'm happy that they're sharing some of them with us.
Yeah, and I was seeing on the warm up as well. They kept showing like specific players, and they were like throwing like random stouts out there too. And I was like, oh, that's new. Like I don't remember seeing that. I think they're going into the data driven analytics, so they're just throwing whatever numbers are out there. But man, thanks for joining us, DynaStats. Thanks to everybody that stayed with us. We didn't make it a super long episode. We hope that you are enjoying the start of the week. Um, if you're listening to us live, fantastic. If you showed up late, you can always go back to YouTube and look for the live tab and watch this over again. And if not, if you're watching it listening to it the next day on our podcast feeds, something that I tend to do. I'm the old school guy that watch the catches it on Apple, or Spotify. But yeah, let us know. Please give us some feedback. Give them some ratings. 5 stars are always welcome. 1 stars are okay if you want to do that, but just tell us why, right? Tell us why we suck. We love constructive criticism, man. All right, but thank you guys again for joining us. Really appreciate the time. What did Christian Putalia say? I have no clue. What is it? I only trust stats for DynaStats. That's absolutely true. I think that's how we roll here. That's why DynaStats joins the Bayou City Soccer Group, because he has the best stats. But guys, have a good night. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.